Hello YouTube and welcome to another episode of The Cloudy Vape. In this video we're going to be talking about the Rage Tank. I believe it's called the Rage Tank. It's the rage of the industry. So this guy is designed in America and it is made in China, I believe. It is an RTA, a sub-ohm Clearomizer, and an RDA all in one. So they give you everything you need to change it up and make it what you need it to be. Right now I have the RTA in it. Let me adjust my wattage. I will have a vape on it, 0.3 ohms on this RTA. And it does wick really well, and it has a 4-post design, so it's very easy to build your RTA. And it's easy to convert it into an RDA. The Clearomizer head works pretty well. I'm not a big fan of the Clearomizer head. It's a decent, there's nothing really, profound or amazing about the Clearomizer head, but the RTA option to the RDA option is very cool. Wicks well, no leakings no leak as far as I've had, and you've also have a cage to protect this glass while it's in Clearomizer mode and RTA mode. So let's have a little vape. Alright, so I took it all apart. Basically, I just have my deck now. Just like that. Got my deck on there. Got the RDA top cap. Gonna vape on it with the RDA top cap now. So let's pop that down in. And it basically, all I did was screwed off the glass part, exposed that deck, and now I popped on the RTA cap. And let's have a vape on it like that. Let me open it up. Super airy. Let's have a vape. Now that is with the top airflow open. So you have bottom airflow on this RDA deck, and you have top airflow. So that is with the top airflow and the bottom airflow. Let me wick this up a little bit. Got some strawberry lavender veteran on this. Let me wick it. And it has a no leak bottom flow system, if that makes any sense. So it's basically like a seal. It's really weird. I'll have to show you when we go up close. Kind of seals it off. But basically, I just dripped it. As you can see, there's no leaking out of it. And the airflow is directly underneath the coil. It's very interesting, very interesting. So I'm kind of intrigued, but you'll see in the up close. So let's have another vape. And now this is with the top airflow closed. So it was a lot more vapor production because you had all of the airiness going on. Now you're getting better flavor, a lot warmer vape, but it's just the bottom airflow open. Beautiful. So let's open that top open. So with the top open, it's almost way too much airflow. You're not really getting a lot of flavor with the top and the bottom open. It's just very airy, very wispy, extreme airflow. Decent flavor, but you're not going to get the flavor like if you closed off the top airflow and just used that bottom airflow. So that is that. Now as far as the Clearomizer head, as I said before, I'm not a big fan of using a Clearomizer head on this. It's very awesome that you can go RTA to RDA, but it does have the option to have that pre-built, Clearomizer coil head if you want to use that. As far as performance, my personal opinion, it works decent. Nothing amazing. There's no rage about the actual Clearomizer coil head. The rage is that you can, the rage of the industry is that you can make it an RTA, an RDA, and a Clearomizer pre-built if you want to. So that is that. Let's dive down and check this out. Alright, so let's see what all the rage is about. So this is all set up in RDA mode on this iStick 100 watt. This is the box it comes in. It's actually packaged pretty nicely when it initially comes in. You basically have a sleeve right there. It kind of gets caught a little bit. It basically says you have a one-piece Rage Tank 0.5 ohm coil, RBA cap, RDA cap, tool packet, 0.3 ohm coil. Keep out of reach of children. This is made by Itsuwa. and Shenzhen Itsuwa, so itsuwasig.com. It's called Rage by Itsuwa. It's actually made, I believe it was designed in America, made in China, in Itsuwa, or made in Itsuwa. I believe Itsuwa is in China, Shenzhen, when most Shenzhen is China. So that is cool, nice little packaging. There's that logo, kind of cool, kind of street art looking, not too bad. Rage of the industry. So let's talk about this thing for a little bit. So let's take it apart. This is basically how it's going to come, and I just kind of threw it all back in there. I didn't make it look nice because I was using it like crazy, abusing it like crazy. So this little package of goodies is going to have a little extra stuff in there you might need. That's going to be actually on the very bottom, right down there. It's going to be hiding down there in case you don't see it, so definitely keep an eye out for that. All of your other goodies, I'm just going to pour them all out. So this is your manual. It'll show you how to assemble it and how to put it together. This is going to be your tank section with a nice cage on it to protect, what it needs to protect. This is also the top section for the RTA and the Clearomizer. So that'll go right down there on that glass like that. Here is your stem for your Clearomizer section with the coil built onto it. Now, this does come off right here. If it will come off, let's see. So that comes off just like that. Now, I don't know if all the coils are going to have this like hexagon, bolt type thing. I think it's hexagon. Yes, hexagonal, whatever. So I don't know. I haven't seen replacement coils. I believe it's going to look like this once they do come out with those, or if they are already out. This is a little stem for your Clearomizer when you want to use your Clearomizer. Let's look at it. So I'm not really gonna go too much into the Clearomizer head. It works pretty decent. Now let's look at this. This is basically your RTA section, and you do have a nice little drip tip. So the reason it's all kind of taken apart, if people don't know, this is a 3-in-1. So it's an RTA, an RDA, and a Clearomizer. So here's a Clearomizer head. It is lightly used and washed out. That's why it's all nice and clean. Lightly used and washed out. So I can't really use it now because I washed it out to basically show you it. So this is your tank section. Now, what we need to do is take apart this RDA section to really look at what's going on. So here is your deck for your RTA and your RDA. It's a 4-post design, very simplistic. This is basically the build I got going on, 24 gauge Canthal, and it's lined up, and it's basically set up for both RDA and RTA. I can basically swap it as I need. Now if you see on the edges, I didn't drop the wick down all the way. It's just right on the bottom of the deck. And what you would do is kind of just going to show you how to put it together first. So you'd basically just put this down right here. And if you see, it's kind of hard to see. I guess I'll actually take this build off and show you where the wicking channels are and stuff, but kind of just show you how to put it together. So this little section does come off in 2 pieces. There's a little shell, and then you also have this chimney part that attaches to it. So this part right here will connect down, and then that will turn it into a RTA, just like that. Screw your tank down, and just like that, it is an RTA. And because the way I wicked it, it's ready to go. I could just fill it up and start vaping on it. Now, so that is your RTA section. I'll unscrew it, and they do recommend using this drip tip with the airflow, adjustable airflow on the drip tip for the RTA and the Clearomizer part, and then to use this larger Delrin insulated drip tip for the RDA section. I'm actually firing it in my hand for the RDA section right there. So you want to put that down in there. So let me get this apart, and then we'll talk about the RDA section. Then I'll take this build off and show you the deck a little bit closer. So there's that. So now you can just take this RDA section, pop it right back on, And if you see closely, it has a very nice seal, and it does snug down really, really snug, so it works really good. Snugs down just like that. Now you have this top airflow section that will come out just like that, just like an RDA. So you have some slots up there for this top Cylon airflow, for airflow all the way around. I would say 1 to 1.5 millimeters in height, and 4 to 5, maybe 6. It's generous Cylon airflow, so 4 Cylon airflows all the way around. You do have Rage right there, marked on there. And then here is your drip tip, of course, for your RDA mode. So that's basically your pieces. There's your top cap with an O-ring. There is your barrel that goes down onto the deck like that. And then here is your actual airflow. So your airflow is a nice Cylon airflow, probably 3 millimeters in height, roughly 3 millimeters in height. I would say up to about 10 to 12 millimeters in length, and that's just a guesstimate. It's not factual, just a guesstimate. Like I said, O-ring right there. On the opposite side, you do have another airflow hole right there. And because the deck is exposed, you're probably going to see a lot of juice on my fingers. Now, the only other option for airflow are these 3 smaller slits. They're kind of like vertical Cylon airflow. So you have 3 right there, and that will just open up one. That will just open up one of the airflows on the side. So if you see on the opposite side, it's closed off. So it'll really reduce the airflow if that's what you want to do. As far as these airflow, yeah, I would say maybe be 2. I said maybe 2 millimeters in height, 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeters in width. It's a decent size. You have a little bit of gripping on the bottom. Alright, so here is the build deck up close. So this is going to be your RTA and your RDA deck. See that bottom airflow going on? Now, these little teeny indentations, if I can get something to point out, basically right there, they're very teeny, but because the way it's set up, it actually wicks really well. Real no issues. I mean, it wicks pretty well. So those are just your little teeny juice flows, which I thought when I first saw this it wouldn't wick very well, but hey, it does wick pretty darn good. Looking at the airflow, because pretty much everything shares the airflow. Like I already said, it has a little groove. Let's look at the bottom. You have an insulator down there. You have screws on right there. So I believe it's semi-adjustable in a sense. It does protrude a little bit, so I mean technically you could use it on a hybrid, but I wouldn't really recommend that. Now the deck just does unscrew like your Goliaths, or your Clearomizers, so to speak. So that just unscrews. There's a little eyelet hole, and that essentially is your deck. So if you wanted to put on your Clearomizer, you would just take your Clearomizer deck. So get your Clearomizer deck like this, and you would screw down your Clearomizer deck just like that, and then you would assemble the tank onto it like that, and boom, there is your Clearomizer. So those are the few different options with this. It's very nice that it has the options to do everything, but the big thing, I guess, is to look at this deck. So it has a leak-proof what it looks like inside of there, it's some type of like silicone. I mean, you can see the eyelet hole in there, but there's something in it, something inside that is stopping it from leaking very bad, because I really haven't had much leaking out of the airflow holes. You do have it, I mean, you have bottom airflow, but if you look down in there really close, so inside there's a type of seal / insulation type thing, and that really that stops it from leaking very much, even in your RDA when you're dripping directly down onto the coils. And as you can see here, I mean, if you drip onto the coils, it's going to leak. There's nothing stopping it from leaking. So there's a mechanism or some type of seal inside that will stop that. Now, I do notice when I inhale, it feels really restricted from the bottom, like something's stopping it. So they could be using like a silicone type thing inside to seal off, to make sure it doesn't, like a vacuum type thing, to make sure it doesn't leak. So that is just one thought. As far as your your posts, you have 2 negative posts, 1 positive post. You have Phillips heads right there, and your airflow from the bottom, you're looking at probably 4 millimeters wide and about 3 millimeters thick Cylon airflow. And then on the bottom, you have about 4 millimeters or so eyelet holes all the way around the base of this deck. And that essentially is your deck. Those are your wicking channels right there, these little teeny dents. So as you saw, my build was just right on the deck, laid a little bit of cotton down, didn't get any cotton inside of those channels, and it worked like a charm in RDA and in RTA mode. So putting together is really simple. You just kind of have to think a step ahead. So if you put your deck on, now you just pick, do I want to go RDA? Do I want to go RTA? So if you want to go RDA, you would just put your barrel down on, put your top cap on right here, like that, and then you're done. So that is your RTA. Now if you pop that off and say, okay, I don't feel like dripping right now, as long as when you build for the dripper, the RDA, you're thinking ahead and saying, okay, I'm probably just gonna pop this off and put the tank on because I need to grab it and go, or I don't want to drip anymore. Think ahead, and make sure the wicking is not too packed in there and the wicking is not going into those channels, and you'll have no problem. What you can do from there is just take your little barrel. This little barrel part does come apart. So if you want to connect your RTA, screw down your chimney like that. So that's like that. Looks like most RDAs or RTAs. Screw down your chimney. Grab your glass deck. Grab the top cap for the glass. Like that, and boom. There it is. There is your RTA. So I'm kind of just taking it apart and putting it back together, just showing you how it's really simple to swap these. There's nothing hard about this. So now to switch back to Clearomizer mode, just take off your deck, grab your Clearomizer and your stem, basically your coil head and your stem, tighten those down. Same deal, get your glass, get your glass, get your cage, get your top section, line it up, screw it down, and boom, you're good to go. So that is that. As far as juice capacity, I believe I'm gonna say, man, what was it? I'm gonna say 5 to 7 for juice capacity. I know it is a lot for your tank. It does a good job as like really reducing the space in there. If you can see inside, that chimney is very small. I haven't heard if the juice capacity is different from RTA to Clearomizer mode, so that's just a thought. I just know that you're at least going to be able to hold around 5 mils, whether that's more or less, that's about what you're looking at. It's a very large capacity. You're going to get a good amount of capacity out of that. So that is that. It is a 22 millimeter base, if I do believe so. And as far as height, it's the average size of most of your tanks, most of your Clearomizers, most of your RTAs these days. This is about the size of the Goliath version 2. Your Clearomizer, this is going to be the size about the Kanger Mini, the Sub-Tank Mini, maybe a little bit taller. So you got RTA, RDA, Clearomizer, 2 different drip tips, and what else do you want? So you definitely have an option to build and mess around with it. So there it is. There is the Rage Tank by Itsuwa. And let's go back up to FaceTime and talk about the pros and the cons. So let's talk about the pros and the cons. So, no big issue as far as quality. Quality is put together really well. The bottom airflow, as I showed you, it's a nice feature and it does work pretty well. I just don't like how it almost feels like there's a restriction going on in the bottom airflow, if that makes any sense. Because of the way the system is set up, it kind of feels restricted to me. The sensation of the inhale just feels a little bit different than most RTAs. You're not going to get that direct type thing because it has that kind of seal going on inside of it. You know, that's just my thoughts on that. As far as the ability to be able to drop it from an RDA to an RTA, I think that is awesome. You're using the same exact deck on both. Wicking is simple. Building is absolutely simple. You know, and if you're feeling lazy one day, you can throw in a pre-built coil head and vape it like that. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is the look of the cage. It just looks way too busy and way too much stuff going on. It's very gaudy looking. At least that's my thought. The cage outside of the tank looks a little bit gaudy. You know, I wish it was just a little bit more simplistic of a setup, but you know, it's kind of unique. Has that kind of a designer look, so to speak. It does have a nice bit of a texture on it, kind of a, you know, markings, so you can grab different parts of it and twist it as needed. Airflow clicks into place very well. You do have I believe it's like a single airflow option, just a single side open with 3 little slots like I showed you up close. You have the dual airflow, so cool option with airflow. It works decent, not a big, no big beeps there. As far as price, I'll put a price in the bottom, in the description below as far as price. As of right now, I have not seen it priced anywhere or know what the price is. But yeah, as far as what it does and what you're able to do, it's very decent. I wouldn't say it's the first on the market to do this. There are other tanks, higher end tanks. I would say it's probably the first at the price point that they're looking at. I'm guessing you're looking at around $40 to $60. That's just my guess, but I have not seen it listed yet. But there is another company, and I can't remember the company. I'll put it in the description box below. But their tank was up in the 200s. It was I think it was a European company who made it. And their tank was, you know, up in the 200s, closer to $200 for this, you know, RTA, RDA, coil head type thing. So that they made that quite a few months ago. So technically, I guess they would be one of the first. And then this is, you know, also one of the first kind of that hybrid options. So just to throw that out there, that is what that is. And if you want to know about that other tank, it's not really attainable for me. It's not something I would go buy. Maybe for high end, very, very high end, or people who want to use expensive devices, they would get that. But I would say for your average person like me, this one is definitely, I would recommend this one over the other one only because of the price point. You're going to get it at a very, you know, a lower price compared to the other one. As far as quality compared to that one, I've never used that one, so I have no idea. I can't really speak into it. I just know as I was looking through it, there is another thing that has done this before as far as this hybrid thing. But as far as what it is, I personally wouldn't go out and pick up one. You know, I like the RDAs I have, I like the RTAs I have, and I like the sub-ohm Clearomizers I have. But this fits into that category for somebody who wants to try everything and only have one purchase. If you want to mess around with RTA building, you can. If you want to mess around with RDA building, you can. If you want bottom airflow, you have it. If you want top airflow, you have it. And then if you just want to be lazy on a day, or if you don't want to even mess around with any of that stuff and just have it as an option as you start progressing through your vape journey, you definitely have this option now as something that is this trifecta of the industry, this rage trifecta, this raging trifecta. That's what I call it, the rage trifecta. It's the Triforce of vape. That is what it is, the Triforce of vape. So that is all. I'm going to wrap up this review, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please like it. If you like my videos in general, please subscribe. And as always, stay classy and keep vaping.